This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
You know, you just have a way about you of just making people smile. I mean,
is that true?
Alec Lewis, yeah, because I think the compound adjective to describe you would be happy-go-lucky. Would you define yourself as happy-go-lucky?
Sometimes,
yeah,
for sure.
You don't walk in, you skip.
No, I mean sometimes I do. I say it all the time. I'm living the dream that I had when I was 15 years old, and I've gotten to meet some phenomenal people and lived in a ton of different places and get to watch the Masters without having to deal with any crazy news this weekend, which is nice right now that I know of. So yeah,
it's the calm before the storm right now. I mean, there's not a lot of things that happen. Although the Joe Flacco signing has some.
Oh yeah, I know that's massive for you guys.
Has some Vikings attached to it right there.
Listen to you guys back last fall. What
you
talking
hate
about?
Joe Flacco?
You guys love Joe Flacco. I wanted to make sure you were okay walking in here.
I'm fine.
Okay, because last fall when Anthony Richardson got benched, I thought Joe Montana was coming in here.
I recall,
but no. The Browns with Joe Flacco and Travis Hunter. It'll be some fascinating football to watch over there. But it is the call. You said calm before the storm, which I assume you're talking about the draft.
Yeah.
It's just nice to have some calm because I feel like even after the season, I mean, it just has been nonstop. And that may be just my projection of it. But yeah, it's nice. And this is one of my favorite sporting events in the world. So.
Alec Lewis.
The Masters you're talking about, yes.
Correct.
The Athletic, theathletic.com, at Alec_Lewis. And there, if you're into football, it's bountiful right now at The Athletic. Not only does Alec have a 7-round mock where we have trades and it all involves the Vikings, but the Beast has arrived. Dane Brugler's Beast, which is a yearly occurrence, and
have you read the whole thing yet?
I don't know Dane, but I enjoy his work. I actually a couple of years ago read up on who is Dane Brugler, and I think we started at Mount Union College or something, and he cut his teeth in baseball, and yeah, he's a smart cat. And he puts a lot of work into this draft guide called The Beast.
It's like hundreds of pages. He said to me that he did it on Google Docs, which is like where a lot of us do our writing, and he ran out of characters, which I've never heard of. And I'll tell you, I told him, I've done feature stories where I have transcripts of 80 pages, and that doesn't make me run out. So I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that project that he does, he has a detailed scouting report on every player that's ever walked planet Earth in college football.
Here's the thing about the Beast that I love.
The Beast
is... You pick some random dude Harold Fannin is my number 5 ranked tight end. I'm going to look up on him. Dane Brugler has, when he started in 8th grade, his coach was this guy. His dad played this. His brother was this person. He's the nephew of this guy. And then in 9th grade,
he suffered a toe injury in 10th grade, and he recovered from that with a great doctor named.
The personal history stuff is insane.
That reminds me of somebody who was on the radio show yesterday when Corey Chavis would do Draft Nasty, and he would go really, really deep with knowledge like that. Some people would call it mindless minutia, but he would get deep. Like yesterday on the radio show, he's talking about Jeff Okudah and best suitor for the Vikings, just low key. Let's start as a special teams guy. He's a good tackler. Let's think that. So Corey comes at it from that angle, but then he'll bring up, but he's been a good tackler since high school where Jeff Okudah played safety. Just quick twitch like that. But see, what would separate and still separates Corey from a lot of people in this business? He knows so many scouts and general managers and coaches and assistant coaches, and he can be trusted. So therefore, Corey doesn't text. It's a quick phone call. So then you kind of get squared.
Corey doesn't text.
No, you kind of get squared away with who's going to fall where and why. It's a terrific advantage.
Dane, I would say, is he's very plugged in, very connected.
You can tell.
Yeah, and it's with team people, definitely agents. Like, I know he spent time in Dallas with a guy, Duke Manyweather, who trains a lot of the top offensive line prospects. So, like, he's even spending time with some of these prospects to kind of get up close and personal to know how they interact. But yeah, the guy just pours a lot of time into that. So, and I will say on The Athletic this year, like, they did a phenomenal job with the design. So
yeah, it's the best. It is the best, right?
It's very good. They did a very good job.
If you haven't seen it yet, I mean, the graphics to start, and then the drop down menus. It's so navigatable. It is so easy to get around it. Yes, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, navigatable.
And for Athletic subscribers like me, I think this is important. The Beast has always just been like this 500-page PDF. Now it's integrated into the app. And so you can search by position.
You can navigate.
Players.
Wow.
You can.
NY Times making plays.
Yeah, New York Times making.
Hey.
This is new for them. To have the Beast fully integrated into the app.
And while you're on there, you could read John Krasinski and his story from the game last night. How about that?
Yeah.
Was that the best Anthony Edwards has ever looked?
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
But I don't have an example why.
I'm just definitely a prisoner of the moment. But
I thought he looked really good, but there was a patch there. So he went 13 points in the first quarter, 13 in the second. In the business, we call that consistency. I got a little overwhelmed by Desmond Bain's second quarter, where Anthony ended up guarding him a little bit, and Desmond was getting his. Now, there are a lot of picks to get him there and everything, but that kind of he outshone Anthony in that quarter. But then Anthony how about this in the second half?
The Grizzlies did a good job in the third quarter defensively.
How about this? I mean, I'm sure you know this. You're an elite basketball mind. The Timberwolves had 52 points in the third quarter. The Grizzlies had 53 points in the entire second half.
Okay, we keep saying that, but 53 points in the second half, you can win with 106 points.
Yeah.
I mean, that it's not like that's a defensive showcase.
The other thing for me is Julius Randle. I mean, some of the shots he's making, turnaround, fading.
Yeah, he's awkward.
And then he hit that three, but he was just nails every time in those spots. I just thought, like, the intensity, it felt like Ant was saying words that you cannot say on this radio station at every timeout, after every shot. And I was enjoying it immensely.
If you're Anthony Edwards, I'm
not.
There's an opportunity tonight, if you are so inclined. If you are, it depends on how pissed off you are at the officials in the NBA, because it's the technical foul bit, as I learned early in the week, resets into the postseason. All right,
thank God.
So the next technical Anthony gets costs him 2 regular season games. So wow, that means that he would be out for the Utah game. Well, we'll put the kibosh on it. But if they're killing Brooklyn tonight and you only would be suspended for 1, you could just let them have it. It doesn't carry to the postseason.
I don't know.
Wouldn't he still miss game 1 of the series, though? I mean, the rule would reset in the playoffs, but if he has to sit 2 games, wouldn't he still?
When you put the kibosh on it, we should have spun that.
I should have put the kibosh on it when I wrote it down, because now I don't have 2 answers. But I
could have just put the kibosh and spun right to Gray's Able or something.
I'm not even going to guess.
It was right there for you.
So with the Beast and Dane Brugler in the 2025,
and Joe Flacco, yeah.
Well, let's start there. I mean, seriously speaking, if anybody thought Flacco was an option as a veteran backup quarterback, that would be all of us, right?
Yeah.
Oh, he's an option. I don't want to go back to the Aaron Rodgers conversation.
I don't either.
But why is he an option? Because there's a need, and he plays the position.
Yeah.
It's a good place to start that.
Sure.
Okay, well, he's now with Stefanski. So I like when your radar went up because this happened and the Vikings may be in search of a veteran backup quarterback. Quick twitch. What do you think next?
I mean, there aren't that many free agent veterans remaining. The obvious one is Ryan Tannehill, who's represented by the same agent that JJ McCarthy is, and Brian Ayrault at WME. the question for me, would Tannehill be okay being the backup? How much money does he want for that? I don't think they're going to do anything until the draft regardless, because there's compensatory pick aspects of it. Other than that, there's Drew Lock from Mizzou. That's where I went.
Yeah.
Covered him. He's a great guy.
Yeah,
Not sure how well he sees the field.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz. Josh McCown spent time with him in Philadelphia. I'm not sure that's the most obvious answer there. I'd say for me, if
Cousins trade for Cousins.
I'd say a day 3 trade. Not that they have a lot of picks to trade, because they absolutely do not. For a quarterback would probably be. I mean, I don't know. Atlanta with Cousins. Who knows how that's going to sort out? I don't know if like the Aiden O'Connell, Sam Howell type of option jazzes anybody up. Doesn't really do a lot for me, but if that's what happens, you believe that Kevin O'Connell can maximize a young guy. So I'd say the 2 spots for me would be like Tannehill at a number that he'd be okay with. Yeah. In a situation he'd be okay with, or like a day 3 type trade option for a player that the Vikings would have confidence.
Who would be better for the Vikings if it's all the same, relatively the same money, no compensation, Tannehill or Cousins?
I think there's more upside to Cousins. I obviously know what happened last year. I also have heard, talking to people close to him, that there's been some, I'm trying to think of how to say this.
With Atlanta?
No, I'm saying with Kirk.
Because it's kind of gotten ugly with him and the owner, with the public things the owner's saying.
What I was going to say, though, is I have heard in recent weeks / months that Kirk has done some stuff health-wise that has him feeling very, very good and much better than he felt last year. I also know Kirk knows the system already.
Yep.
I know that Kevin O'Connell obviously respects the heck out of him, and that is a mutual thing.
What about Cousins in Pittsburgh?
Well, what they're not. So Aaron Rodgers to Pittsburgh isn't happening.
Okay, so is that done?
No, I mean,
I saw that $35 million report or whatever.
No, it's not done.
Yeah.
You had Art Rooney at the owners' meeting saying he felt very good about it, but it hasn't happened. Now, again,
A-Rod's playing catch with DK Metcalf. People are like, "We're happy for you." No, that stuff matters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I think it's a fair thing to bring up. If Aaron Rodgers ultimately does not sign in Pittsburgh and he either retires or he just waits to see whatever, then, I mean, Pittsburgh, I don't know how comfortable you'd be with just Mason Rudolph, but I also think they've been lurking with certain draft guys. So there's a lot of machinations with a lot of stuff. What do you think, Charch, about the Kirk versus Tannehill thing?
I'd rather have Kirk for a lot of the reasons you mentioned. He could walk in and run this offense a day later. I mean, God forbid something happens to J.J. McCarthy health-wise, or maybe, the development just isn't what we expect, Kirk is more likely to save your season than I think Ryan Tannehill is. And the versions we saw of Ryan Tannehill down the stretch were even worse than the inconsistent play we got out of Kirk last year in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's also really? Like with Kirk, like, I mean, you just know he's going to be a good actor with everything. Like, that even with how things have played out in Atlanta, for it not to be even more probably contentious and like, I think it does speak to just the way he wants to go about it. But yeah, I mean, that would be interesting. The question then is, I mean, are you trading a pick for him? You don't have any picks to trade, really. I mean, they have 4 picks for this draft. You guys know that very well, and I think they want more.
Kirk wants out. Now, they've reported the beat writer there, Orlando Ledbetter.
Yeah, Orlando.
He says Kirk is asked for his release. He just wants to be released outright. He's got a no trade, so he's got leverage that way, but he just wants to hit the open market and be able to find his own destination.
Yeah, but I will say, I do think he wants to wait until after the draft to see to not get blindsided.
What happened last year, right?
Right. So, which is remains unbelievable. But yeah, like he and Arthur Blank have had dinner. I think there was some report that Arthur Blank took 5 pages of notes at the dinner. I'm thinking, how could you take 5 pages of notes and a one-on-one dinner with somebody? Seriously,
right? Choose with
if I'm doing a reporting project and I'm like out on the road with somebody at dinner, I'm not just like writing the whole dinner. I'm like looking them in the eyes. I don't know how that works. Do you transcribe it afterwards? I don't really. That was interesting.
I've just lost touch with Carson Wentz. I mean, I know he started a game for Kansas City last year, played in maybe a handful more. I don't think he started a lot of games the last couple of years. What arm strength? I don't know. What do we just throw Carson Wentz to the back burner? I've always been a fan of his from afar.
I mean, I will tell you this. I have not watched enough film of him in recent, so to where I have really any feel. Right. My perception has always been, and again, this could be inaccurate because I don't have enough intel, but is that he's always had great arm strength. It seems like he makes a lot of muddy decisions. I remember talking for a story I did last year to a guy who had been in the quarterback room in Philadelphia, and it didn't seem like he had the great relationships with coaches and trust and all that. So again, I don't, this is just what I know here. I have not heard, just like people were asking before, with the backup thing, like, what about Jameis? Like people ask me that all the time, and I was like, I never heard that as a possibility at all. And I would say the same for Carson Wentz right now, but I mean, that could be subject to me being wrong, right. But,
I just like to remind us, I mean, Carson Wentz has become, sort of a punching bag over the past 5 or 6 years. That first season as a starter, he looked like he was going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Right.
And, we all assumed, coming from a small school, it was going to take a long time for him to ramp up, blah, 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 blah. He was so good so fast, we all thought Carson Wentz was going to be a fantastic NFL quarterback, and it all fell apart before the Eagles had put together this great offensive line they're known for now. Yeah. It was
late in the season, Coliseum, LA Rams.
Oh, you remember?
Down by the goal stripe. He went diving in for a touchdown, I believe, he tried to cut and get in, and that was it. It changed his whole career.
I'd be curious for either Nordo or Charch to look up what the Eagles traded to go up and get him.
My finger's broken over here.
We don't trust you to do it.
Seriously, happy-go-lucky.
No, it's not. They're on computers.
I have two in front of me.
You're just looking at me with that curly hair you got on top of your head.
AI says Eagles traded. Oh no, that's the opposite. That was the trade to the Colts. I'll have to.
What are you looking for?
I want to know what the Eagles traded to go up and get Carson Wentz. Are you looking it up now?
I keep getting.
You got a laptop? I didn't see that laptop.
By the way, Indy paid them a 2nd and 3rd round pick to get Wentz from the Eagles.
Yeah, well,
which seems like a lot now.
Indy's done a lot of great. They had Joe Flacco, so they must be doing something right.
Carson Wentz was the 2nd overall pick in the 2016 draft.
What did they trade up to go get him?
They traded up to the number 2 overall pick. The trade involved sending their number 8 pick, a 3rd round pick, a 4th round pick, a 1st round pick, and a 2nd round pick.
How about that?
That's what they gave up.
2 firsts.
To go from 8 to 2 to the Browns.
Oh.
They gave up a 3rd, a 4th, a 1st, and a 2nd.
And another 1st?
1 first, 1 2nd, a 3rd, and a 4th.
Yeah. And they were right. Until he got hurt.
I will say, I mean, like, he did spend time with Andy Reid in Kansas City and with that team. So I don't know. You got the North Dakota State. You pair him with Gray Zabel or North Dakota State South here. No, I don't.
Look at this. I mean, he was with McVay in 23, Reid in 24. I mean, O'Connell, offensive-minded coach, former coach of the year.
The quarterback whisperer, from what I've heard.
Quarterback whisperer, as you've dubbed him. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to completely draw a line through the Wentz name.
No, I don't feel comfortable doing that either. But I do feel comfortable saying I have not heard that as a possibility. I'd be
surprised.
Again, I'd say from what I have heard, the Ryan Tannehill one is definitely interesting, but it's probably going to be contingent on money / fit. But he does have the same agent as JJ, so there's comfort and trust there. Then the
beast is really good.
The day 3 type pick is the other.
Okay, so Alec Lewis at Alec
day 3 pick trades
_ Lewis of The Athletic, theathletic.com. What you did here with this Vikings 7-round mock is you took what you know and what you've seen and your opinions, and then you got into the beast. And you put together the 7-round mock. Is that fair to lay it out that way?
Exactly correct.
All right. Well, so I don't want to be reading on the radio, but You have the Vikings first pick at number 33.
That's right.
So we have a Browns move up to 24
to get a quarterback.
Oh, geez. Okay.
And
Jackson Dart.
Which quarterback at 24?
I would probably
Sanders.
I'd probably think Dart.
Yeah.
From what I know, Dart. The Browns have done some work on Dart. I don't know if they. You talk to Kevin Stefanski more than I do.
What about that Louisville bit that you love, or somebody loved the Louisville?
I'm not a Tyler Shuck.
Yeah, I can't remember who loved him.
I'm not a.
That's right, O'Connell.
I've watched the. Yeah.
Just kidding.
You want to get aggregated?
Just
Holy
kidding.
cow!
Just kidding. Aggregators. Navigatable.
I've watched some Tyler Shuck. There are times where you can really see it, and there are times where you can really not see it. But
if he was good, you could run the shuck and jive offense. That'd be phenomenal.
That's a very you quote. The idea with the mock was to trade down from 24 to 33.
Yeah.
And then I think I picked up like 67 by doing that trade.
We got, when we return, we will go through some of these players and names.
Tyler Shuck, you're going to get aggregated on that.
Alec Lewis has compiled via The Athletic, theathletic.com. For the Minnesota Vikings and the draft, which begins 13 days from today. You're listening to the Friday Football Feast.
Football Feast.
Round 233, courtesy of Alec Lewis and The Athletic and theathletic.com. Donovan Jackson, offensive lineman, Ohio State. You've discussed him a bit, 9 to noon, for those who may have missed it. What do you like?
Donovan Jackson, he's Ohio State guy, big-time recruit coming out of high school out of Texas. He played left guard early in the season for Ohio State. He's physical enough, athletic enough. I watched the tape of Ohio State against Oregon because I wanted to see him against Derek Harmon, the interior defensive lineman. This was
sweet.
like early in the season last year, and
wow.
And I Jackson, to me, he picked up stunts. He just seemed like a guy who could step in immediately, be the starting left guard, and then has some tackle flexibility. But I'd ask you guys. Like, if they trade back 9 spots and they don't pick in the first round, and you're at that draft party.
Come on, man.
We've been there.
Yeah.
Is that going to be...
2010 was probably the most difficult when they lose to the cheating Saints and your guy, the Anti-Vike, in the NFC title game. All right? So, what were we picking that year? 30? Yeah, something like 30 or whatever. Yeah. So they, we're doing the draft show and negotiating certain people who are neither one of us on a microphone, spending an hour trying to pronounce Ndamukong Suh, and just it came up. The iterations were unbelievable as the show went on. It just kept changing. I thought there were 3 different players, but then we get to here we go. Right. It's 11 o'clock, man. And we were at Jimmy's. It was Jimmy's in Vadnais Heights.
That's exactly where we were.
Wonderful place.
Yes.
And they traded. They traded. And then not only did they trade, the next day with their first pick.
Is that the Chris Cook year?
Chris Cook. They took Chris Cook.
Oh, come on, man.
And, we're selling hope. I couldn't pick Chris Cook out of a 2-person lineup standing next to the late Bus Cook. I had no idea who he was.
Bus Cook.
And then it was just a disaster. So we've dealt with that. But hold on. I like what you just said about Harmon, because it amplifies something the great Corey Chavis shared yesterday, 9 to noon. Do you know much about Corey?
I really don't.
Former Viking safety.
I keep thinking, I think Derek Chavis, the basketball player.
Corey's
not related.
Uncle, Barney Chavis, was Denver Broncos immortality.
Okay.
Back in, even a little bit before the Elway days or early Elway days. And Corey, from South Carolina, went to Vanderbilt, just a brilliant business guy, just a smart guy. So he gets here in 2002. He comes into the league 98, I think, with the Cardinals. He's a corner, taken pretty high, 3rd round. Bookended Aeneas Williams, who's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And so then Corey ends up here via free agency. They move him to safety. And he ends up having a bunch of interceptions, like a 9 interception year, a 7. He's getting to the house off Joey Harrington, stuff like that. Corey was a really, really good player.
He was.
Corey always was known for the player walking around Winter Park with a duffel bag. And in the duffel bag, he constantly was getting VHS tapes mailed to him from schools because he loved analyzing tape for draft picks.
It's interesting.
And then as a player, he would go, not the big CBS, but like when the CBS Sports bit, when that CBS channel emerged, they were using him. He was currently playing for like the Rams or something as an analyst. So Corey's really, really dialed into a lot of scouts, GMs, assistant coaches, stuff like that. So he just does a really good job with the draft. He's the preeminent draft voice this radio show ever has had. He was on yesterday, and to amplify what you said about Donovan Jackson. He said I love he didn't win them all, Jackson, but against the Michigan kids, Mason Graham and Kenneth Graham. And he's like, when he watches that, he can just tell more than not Jackson belongs in the NFL and belongs being a high draft pick, like a first-ish round draft pick. Obviously, Ohio State versus Michigan and stuff. So that's cool you said that.
Well, there's a cluster of like those offensive linemen kind of at the back of that first round, where it's Zabel from North Dakota State, who we've talked about, Donovan Jackson. I think Kelvin Banks from Texas could be in that mix.
I think your guy Booker.
Tyler Booker from Alabama. He's another.
I think the Eagles really want him.
That's interesting.
I got a little bit of steam on that from outside of the Covenant, but if you think about Mekhi Becton, who's gone, Booker's like Becton Jr. They just kind of play the same, you know?
Big guy, kind of just, I mean, I'll say, you talk to anybody like scouts, executives, people in the industry about Booker, like people rave about the intangibles, like you bet on the person with that guy as much as you bet on the player. Yeah. But there's
Field Yates from ESPN was on the show earlier, said pretty much exactly the same thing.
So there's like the cluster of those four interior of the offensive line probably. And the question would be like, does Zabel get picked earlier?
Yeah.
Does Kelvin Banks get picked earlier? Donovan Jackson, would you have to pick him at 24 or could you trade back and get him? Like that's where those are conversations worth asking that position specifically.
The beast, the beast at The Athletic, it's a draft guide. Honestly, it's worth subscribing to The Athletic for, if only for the draft guide.
I would agree.
If you're looking to have a draft guide, this is the best one they've ever put out in my estimation, and I look at it every single year. But the beast has Charch's guy. Charch thinks the Vikings should select Nick Emanwari, South Carolina safety. The Beast has him at 17, like 17th best prospect. Gray Zabel, NDSU, go crazy, 32nd ranked prospect. It's all this Zabel steam from what you can, the public steam from those who get it like Brugler. It's all over the board, man. You got Field Yates saying, I think he's going to be 15, 16, 17, 18.
Zabel.
Zabel.
Yeah.
Now you got the Beast being like 32nd out of 100. It's the Zabel steam is all over the board, man.
Well, I was talking to, and you'll like this, an executive in the AFC on Wednesday morning.
How is Mark Davis?
I always like who you come
How is Alex Manos?
And I was asking him about Zabel.
Yeah.
About
you were talking to Andrew Barry about Kwesi and that extension, weren't you?
About Nick Emanwari, about Malachi Starks, and this person said to me
Emanwari's how you say it?
I don't know. Emanwari, that's how I say it.
That's how you say it.
So I was asking him about some of these guys, and he's like, I'm not sure if those three you just mentioned, Zabel, Emanwari, Starks, are any of them are going to get to 24. The other, Derek Harmon, the interior defensive lineman from Oregon, he's like, I'm not sure he'll get to 24. So it becomes like, that's where the trade back to me is a fascinating talker, because until you see who's on the board and unless you know who they actually really like, it's hard to really assess whether the trade back totally makes sense. But if all those guys are off the board, then the Vikings are and they like those guys. Let's say they do, then the Vikings would be in an interesting spot at 24.
Let's break now, so we're not in a hurry.
Okay.
With Alec Lewis for our final segment into the weekend. It's KFAN. All right, 5 minutes to go in the Friday Football Feast. PA and Charch, Mad producer by our side, and Alec Lewis from The Athletic, lead football mind. So with the 7-round mock you did for the Vikings at The Athletic and theathletic.com, that I just think it's so wonderful what you did at 187. You put my guy in there, Jimmy Horn Jr.
You like Jimmy Horn Jr.?
Yeah, so it wasn't you with whom I shared that.
Does Pat Shurmur like Jimmy Horn Jr.?
Well, I don't want to go through the genesis of it. The answer is yes. The answer is the hash marks in college football, as you would know more than probably all of us.
They're wide.
Really dictate how you set up a second and whatever to get to a third and whatever. So at the family game, after the Vikings lose to the Rams, I go straight to Boulder for family weekend with my daughter. She's a senior, and they're playing Cincinnati, and Cincinnati has a couple of decent guys in the secondary. So Shurmur has a second and whatever. It's a long play. He runs a play to make sure they get half of it back, which they did, and the third down play starts from the left hash mark, because he knew he was going to get Jimmy Horn Jr. out wide right, singled up against one of their less desirable corners, because of Travis Hunter was wide left, and then another good receiver was slot left. So they got him. Shador sells it left to Travis. Safety heads over that way a little bit. Well, then Shador hits Jimmy Horn Jr. I had no idea how fast this guy was. He put a move on this corner, and I learned two things on that single play. One, who's Jimmy Horn Jr.? I know he looks like a key you can pick a lock with. He's that small.
170 pounds.
Right. But tiny. Holy cow, is he fast. He shook the guy out of his shoes. Secondly, sadly, he pointed at or waved bye-bye or pointed at the Cincinnati corner at the 20. The 15.
Yeah, they're going to ring him up for that.
Here's the second thing I learned. That taunting in college football is a spot foul.
I didn't know that.
Oh, is it?
He got into the end zone. The Covenant's going nuts. I'm like, what happened? Why are they bringing it back? Because taunting in college football is a spot foul.
I can't stand those penalties where it's like you're waving at somebody. I get it. It's like act like you've been there, hand the football to the ref. I can understand that perspective, but like
Jimmy Horn Jr., I'm telling you right now.
Grenades into the stands.
Yeah.
Jimmy Horn Jr.
I don't like that.
I'm not going to put him in the category of Marcus Sherrills when it comes to punt returning, or maybe even David Palmer. But this team has not had a punt return touchdown since 2016, Sherrills against the Houston Texans.
Jeez.
Jimmy Horn Jr. will break that next year if he's on this team. This guy, as a returner, he's amazing. He would be a really good special teams guy. He is on the diminutive side.
Wait, isn't he Rondell Moore? Don't we already have this guy on the roster?
Rondell Moore is coming back from a very serious injury.
No. Yeah. Here's the deal. Jimmy Horn Jr. is deep Saturday pick, maybe college free agency.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because my man's like 5'9", 170, 5'10", 170. There's room for Jimmy Horn Jr. in the NFL. Mark my words on this. Maybe not as a receiver or even a trick. As a returner, I'm in.
Well, it'll be interesting if they draft a receiver in this draft, where they do it, and the type of player they pick. Because it's an interesting receiver draft. And, Jalen Naylor is entering the final year of his rookie deal. If he if he produces the same way he did last year and is healthy the way he was last year, there's going to be another team that's going to be willing to pay him a pretty good sum of money.
You did such a good job. Forget the names. It's just how you laid out offensive line here, defensive tackle here, safety here, and then you finish in a deep running back draft with a running back.
Yeah, I like that guy, Brashard Smith.
I couldn't pick him out of a two-person lineup standing next to San Jose Shark winger Will Smith. But nevertheless, he's a running back deep in the draft. Have a wonderful weekend, okay?
Thank you, guys. Always fun.
Thank you for helping, and we'll see you next week if you have time. Thank you, Charch. Yeah, here comes Mad Producer. Ladies and gentlemen, from the fighting city of Chaska to put a wrap on the show, here comes Big Daddy Khan.
Big boy's back. Good stuff.
Got the draft so close and we're kind of going wacko. The host teared up. We missed out on Joe Flacco. So on to Tannehill, maybe Wentz or Drew Lock. Some are hoping Aaron is still around to talk. Charch gushing over AC/DC. Loves him some Rush. Idolizes Geddy Lee. Jones with Zeppelin and Twistle with The Who. Long winding tangents. It's kind of what we do. The weird talkers that it may yield, but nothing weird with Yates. His kids call him Field. Draft takes. Looking for the inside story. At 24, he has the Vikes taking Mr. Emin Worry. Then Alec providing his weekly service. It appears he's prone to laughter because he's nervous. Enough of us, 9 to noon. That's it for the week. If Rom doesn't finish 200 today, I'm going to freak.
Thanks for listening to KFAN.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.